After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending peace and salutations upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I greet you with assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We are a matter of days away from the blessed month. Allahumma balighna Ramadan, Ameen. Allah allow us to reach the blessed month of Ramadan and many more Ramadan, Ameen. And with the approaching of this blessed month, just as one prepares for a guest, you clean the house, you prepare food, you ensure everything is in place for the arrival of the guest, to ensure that that guest feels welcome and appreciated and honored. Similar preparation must be done for the month of Ramadan. And one of the ways we can prepare, of course, is setting ourselves targets. Not just for ourselves, but for those that have children. You also set your children targets. Now think about how many Ramadan that we've experienced to date. If you were to add on one good deed and maybe reduce one bad habit or reduce something, just one, by now you would have maybe started 10 new habits or got rid of 10 bad habits as well. So when we set ourselves goals, let's be realistic. Let's evaluate our personal state. Let's see what we want to accomplish. If you are somebody that is unable to recite or recognize the letters in Arabic, your starting point is to find a teacher that will help you on that journey. You cannot set yourself a target of complete the Quran if you cannot read the Quran. Let's be realistic. If you are unable to find a teacher in the month of Ramadan, then that teaches us we need to find someone before. Because Ramadan, people you won't find many education specifically. It's more spiritual reminders in Ramadan. Everybody's gets tired from teaching. So that preparation must be there beforehand. Other things that we can do though is be aware of the content that's going to be recited in Taraweeh. Some masajid do it in 27 days, some do it in 29 days. Can you split your day in reading the English? And then when you reach a verse that you are curious about, go and research that from certain sources or ask the Imam, what does this mean? So that you can actually then do tadabbur, reflect upon the Quran. Now Ramadan is the month of the Quran. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. It is the month in which the Quran was sent down. هدى للناس, a guidance for mankind. وبينات من الفرقان والهدى بينات من الفرقان, and a clear distinguishing verses and a furqan. Furqan makes the good clear and makes the bad clear. Furqan. This is why Umar ibn Khattab had the name Al-Faruq, because he would distinguish between good and bad. This is a characteristic that we should try our best to have as well. So this is what the Quran comes with. It comes with guidance, and what you find is everybody's on their own spiritual journey, Muslim or not. They're trying to find answers for themselves. But through that journey, what happens is, if you reflect the past 10 years, you may have done this yourself, if you reflect the past 5, 10 years, or even the past year alone, if you were to summarize your spiritual search, what is it that you were to find? I can guarantee you'll say, that knowledge I've acquired, whether it be the good that I meant to do or the bad I meant to avoid, really, if I focus my time, I would learn that in 1 week or 1 day. So efficiency is one thing. What happens is we try to reinvent the wheel when the wheel has already been made available to us in the form of the Quran. The scholars have exerted thousands of years in order to help us connect with the Quran. So that research is there. So as awam, as general people, all we're asked to do is worship. And if you were to list the basic types of worship, salah, dhikr, dua, Quran, helping other people, helping your parents, these good deeds, and if you were to be consistent in them, they will help you reach that higher rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is these basic stuff that we knew. So don't get caught up in trying to find a special, unique type of ibadah. Because the beauty of our religion is everything has been made clear for us. The Furqan is clear for us. The guidance of Rasulullah ﷺ came with as well. Made it easy for us that we know what to do and what not to do. We just have to stick to it and be consistent with it. Now with Ramadan, often we learn the fiqh, and rightly so. We should know what type of intention, what time we have to make the intention by, what breaks our fast, what's the sunnah of suhoor, what's the sunnah of iftar. You know, all these fiqh related stuff. It's important to know this. And once you know it, you just act upon it. You understand? You understand where the precaution is, and you try your best to stay within the parameters. If you're unsure about something, try to err on the side of precaution. But remember, beyond fasting, beyond stopping yourself from food and drink and marital relations, beyond this, the purpose of Ramadan is what? The purpose of Ramadan isn't to feel hunger, or to feel thirsty, or to deprive yourself, necessarily. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran what the purpose of the month is. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That you may be of those that are conscious of Allah, aware of Allah. And the way that taqwa is described in the Arabic wordings are really beautiful. They have like root words. And those root words have obviously meanings. And it paints a picture to help you understand the message. So it comes from the word wiqaya, and the kind of descriptions given, it's like somebody that's treading a path full of thorns. And you pick up your garment in order for it not to be caught in the thorns. Now imagine you're walking with a jubbah, which is a bit loose, right? Imagine what happens when it gets caught in these thorny bushes. It will tear, you get caught in it. So you exercise whatever precaution you can so that your clothes don't get caught, and beyond that, your skin doesn't get cut. This is taqwa. That you are so careful with what will impact you. When it comes to sins, you are now extra cautious about that, and that reflects in your ibadah, in your state. That when you know what to avoid and you stay away from that, the question then leads, what should I do instead? And that's when you go to the ta'atullah, the obedience of Allah. Now, with Ramadan, we have to understand that by fasting, yes, there's benefits in terms of the body, the physical body, the mental state as well. But Islam, first and foremost, is spiritual. And if you think about somebody that's paralyzed, unable to move, their physical body, they are unable to do much with their body. But they can still do things that spiritually benefit them. So, nourishing our soul is the objective of Ramadan. Is one of the things that we must do in Ramadan. If you think about how much we invest in our peace of mind, in our body, whether it be the food or the exercises that we do or we don't do, that has an impact on a daily basis. All right? So if somebody was to go to the gym 3-4 days a week, eat healthy, that they feel the benefit of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us healthy. Ameen. Ramadan is your spiritual gym. That we exert ourselves in this month, especially in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And that kind of muscle pump, the spiritual muscle pump, is felt. The effects are felt afterwards. And then we supplement that with the 6 fasts of Shawwal. So that's after. But now we have at least 8 days, 7-8 days before Ramadan begins. Allah grant us life to reach it. Ameen. We have time. So that preparation must be there from now, and focus on the spiritual elements. Once you've understood the fiqh, focus on the spiritual elements. So, the hadith we mentioned earlier, that in the part of a body, there's a flesh in the body. If it is correct and upright, that will reflect on the limbs. And if it is corrupt, then that will reflect on the limbs. And what is that flesh? It is the heart. And Abu Hurairah, the famous Sahabi radiallahu anhu, he mentions an amazing statement, which inshallah should bring it home. He mentions, Al-qalbu malik, the heart is the king. وَالْأَعْضَاءُ جُنُودَهُ. And the limbs are its soldiers. The heart is the what? The king. And the limbs are what? Its soldiers. The soldiers of the king. فَإِذَا طَابَ الْمَلِكُ طَابَتْ جُنُودَهُ. So when the king is pure, the actions that the limbs do will also be pure. وَإِذَا خَبُثَ الْقَلْبُ. But if the heart is corrupt and filthy, خَبُثَتْ جُنُودُهُ. And you think about the world that we're living in today, the leaders, the oppression that's being spread. It is the leaders that are the kings, you can say, of their countries. And they are instructing their soldiers. And so when the kings instruct the khabuth, the filth, the soldiers are now acting upon that filth. And the same applies for your own body. That if you are engaging in a sin, know that that is because there is a piece of filth in the heart that we must now cleanse. And Ramadan is one of the best opportunities to do that, because the shayateen are chained up, and so the impact is reduced. The impact is reduced. And not only that, Ramadan is the month in which we are collectively exerting ourselves. Now everybody's doing it. When everybody does something, it forms this herd mentality. And this herd mentality, nobody wants to be left out. Nobody wants to be isolated. Everybody wants to be in it together. And so it is the time to pick up, but that preparation has to start from now, my brothers and sisters. It has to start from now. No, I'm not expecting you to do obviously not tarawih tonight, but tahajjud tonight. If you can, fantastic. But you should have in mind the goals you want to achieve. And if it is that you're going to set yourself targets of attending the masjid 5 times a day, don't wait until the first of Ramadan to begin to do that. Start putting that emotion now. Why? Because you're going to ease into it. If you're going from 0 to 100, you're going to burn out. Your engine is going to crack and boil. So you have to build yourself up now. If you want to finish the Quran khatam in the month of Ramadan and you're not reading anything right now, start reading now. Warm up the engine so that when Ramadan begins, you're firing on all cylinders. And then when the last 10 nights come, you go to 6th gear, inshallah. That's the aim. But that requires a cleansing of the spiritual state. So for example, if you have greed, how do you cure that? If you're selfish, how do you cure that? By being generous, by being charitable. And the Prophet ﷺ was the most generous in the month of Ramadan out of all the people. He was already very generous, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but in Ramadan he was the most generous of all people. If it's an issue with the tongue, whether it's lying, backbiting, can't control it, this is where you learn to take a pause and breathe before you speak. Understand the consequences. Learn to guard the tongue. The Prophet ﷺ said, I guarantee paradise for the one who guards his tongue and guards his private limbs. So these are things that we can work towards. And there are many other diseases that we should also work towards as well. So everybody knows, you all know your weaknesses. You know, in public we could show a certain face, but we know what's deep inside. So find that 1, 2, maximum 3. Don't go beyond that. Bad habits, and think of a plan. This is how I get rid of this. And the way you cure it is with the opposite. You replace it with a good deed. Your sins have an impact on the light in your heart. So if you feel that you are struggling for an ibadah, it is because of certain sins that are the baggage of you, your baggage. Now, let's give some Quranic examples. Inshallah, we'll give 3. First, the importance of, and these are all going to be related to the impact that your heart has on your outer actions. Story number 1. We know Iblis, Shaitan. He refused to prostrate out of gratitude to Allah to Adam alayhi salam. We know this story. Prostrate to Adam? No. Why? I'm better than him. That statement is kibr, pride. So the first actual sin was from the heart, where he thought he was better than other people. And that led him even worse, to do worse actions. Right? He believes in Allah, but he is considered a disbeliever. He believes in Allah, but is considered a disbeliever because he disobeyed bluntly the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And went on to say, Ya Allah, and then he made dua, by the way, which was accepted. He made dua, Ya Allah, let me live until the end of times. Dua granted. And then he goes and says, Allah, I am going to show you how weak your creation is. I will approach them from their right, from their left, from their front and behind. And most of them, you're going to find them to be ungrateful. This is shaitan. The sin originated from where? The heart, where he thought he was better than somebody. And so the first lesson we learn here is don't think you're better than someone. Find ways to keep yourself humble. Somebody praises you, find a way to put yourself down. And when I say put yourself down, I don't mean demotivate yourself. There's a difference between humbling yourself and demotivating yourself. Somebody says, MashaAllah, you do some amazing work. No, you know, I could do better. I could do that. I have some weaknesses. And don't just say it like fake. You know, some people say it really fake. Yeah, don't do it like that. Generally understand where you can improve. If you feel you cannot improve in something, then know that that itself is a weakness that you have. That you cannot find where to improve. Nobody's perfect. Story number 2. The sons of Adam alayhi salam, Habil and Qabil. They were told to offer a sacrifice. Habil got the best of the sheep that he had, and he gave that for the sacrifice. Qabil, he found a crop that wasn't going to benefit anybody, and he gave that. Which one's going to be accepted? If you're giving something for Allah, what's going to be accepted? The thing that you give the best, the one you make the most effort for, or the ones that's going to have no benefit? Obviously the best. And so what does that sin, how did that sin of the heart portray itself in front of him? Qabil says, I'm going to kill you. That led to another sin. That will originate from where? The disease of the heart. Now, the last example I'm going to give is why we should never give up on anybody, Muslim or not. No matter how much of a zalim you think they are, no matter how much of a taghut they are or a fasiq they are, no matter how much of a sinful enemy this person is, this next story will teach us why you should never give up, and that why guidance is solely in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is when Musa alayhi salam was instructed, idhab ila Fir'aun. Go to Fir'aun, innahu tagha. He's transgressed. We know what Fir'aun's done. 1 year he'd kill the boys, and the one next he'll leave it. You know, this is the greatest tragedy in human history. Imagine innocent baby boys. Why? Because his kingdom was under threat. Yet, despite what the wrongs he has done, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Musa alayhi salam, idhab ila Fir'aun. Go to Fir'aun. He's transgressed. فَقُلْ, and say to him, هَلْ لَكَ أَن تَزَكَّى. Do you want to purify yourself? The invitation here is what? Do zakah of your heart. Purify your heart. وَأَهْدِيَكَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ فَتَخْشَى. I will guide you to your Lord. And here, فَتَخْشَى. To be in awe or be of fearing of Allah. Right? So be in fear or in awe and understand that Allah is in control here. Allah has Jannah and Jahannam here. So the invitation is what? What's the invitation? Purify yourself. فَأَرَاهُ الْآيَةَ الْكُبْرَى. And Musa alayhi salam comes with signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The great signs where the staff will turn into a snake. فَكَذَّبَ وَعَصَى. He rejected it and rebelled. ثُمَّ أَدْبَرَ يَسْعَى فَحَشَرَ فَنَادَى. And he called the people and he said to them, فَقَالَ. And what did he say to them? Well, look at the sin, it continues. He denied the greatest signs sent to him, and then he goes on to say, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. Fir'aun says, Astaghfirullah. He says, I am the Most High, Lord the Most High, to his people. فَأَخَذَهُ اللَّهُ نَكَالَ الْآخِرَةِ وَالْأُولَى. He has been made as the example for those in before, for the people before and now, the generations. This is a lifetime lesson for us. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَعِبْرَةً. In this is a lesson for us. لِمَنْ يَخْشَى. The word yakhsha comes again. Brothers, the state of the heart is important. We hear this in the reminder as well in Surah Al-A'la. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. Surely, most definitely, the successful one is he who has purified himself. This piece of flesh within our body is the king. So purify the king so that your actions can also be pure. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us a qalbun salim, a pure heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rid any diseases of our heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reach Ramadan and many more Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our ibadah in Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us united upon Iman and gather us in a better gathering in Al-Firdaus Al-A'la. Ameen wa akhiru da'wana. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin.